Welcome back. We're talking to Siddika Jaffer, the founder of the Halal Dining Club. Talking of which, are there any plans to expand the business? Because it sounds like a great model, not just for halal, but for, like you said, vegans, vegetarians, pescatarians, you know, the whole range.
Yes, no, definitely. So we already include vegetarian as a symbol within our range, but lots of people have come to us and said, look, given the fact that you're curating and you're on the street anyway, could you actually get information, you know, on the vegetarian range? Because vegetarian as well is not that simple. You could have vegans on the one hand, and then you've got people who don't want salt, for example, or any root vegetables, you know, through to sort of lacto-ovo vegetarian. So there are definitely potentials to reapply this model to other dietary restrictions.
Allergies in particular, you know, allergies and intolerances are a growing issue. And I imagine that could be very useful. So have you had feedback from the public, from the users of the site? What are people saying about it?
Yeah, and you know, what's really heartwarming is that when all of your efforts and hard work go into actually helping a diner solve that problem. So we've had great feedback from people saying, I used your app today, I was in a new part of town that I didn't know about before, and I discovered a great restaurant that I never knew about. Or they read our blog site and they look at a review and they go, that was an amazing write-up, I went and had a great meal and celebration. So we are helping people solve that problem that we set out to solve. Our next issue is then going to be to help restaurant owners also solve their business problems as well. And that's the next stage in our evolution.
So how would you go about doing that?
So what we discovered was that loads and loads of restaurant owners just simply don't have data about their customers. So customers walk in and they walk out and they have no way of engaging that customer because they don't capture that customer's details. And so many of them, you know, try to run loyalty programs, for example, and they'll give you a voucher or a paper stamp card, but people will put them in the bottom of their handbags, if you're like me, or take a different handbag the next time they're out, and then they end up losing these vouchers and loyalty cards. And so the restaurant owner's got no way of really kind of building that relationship. So what we're building is actually quite a sophisticated technology platform that allows restaurant owners to tap into our system to simply then run offers and promotions and their loyalty programs on one simple app, basically. So.
Do you think this is an increasing thing? I mean, for example, is the need for halal food in the UK growing?
Yeah, there are about 3 million Muslim diners in the UK, but we also get a huge number of tourists coming into us. So when you're a tourist, you can imagine you're here for a short period of time, you don't know where, you know, what's good to dine. There's so many options to choose from. Which one's the best restaurant, which one's recommended. So definitely there's a use case for tourists coming in, but as well as that, the local Muslim population in the UK is growing. It's increasingly affluent. They're spending money dining out. And so you can see that being reflected in the number of restaurants that are now opening, catering to the halal diner. So I think this is a brilliant time for us to be launching this product.
Are you also offering, okay, so you're offering like we know what the food is like. Are you offering reviews? You know, can we find out if there's a nice atmosphere there, if there's a friendly manager, you know, if it's good lighting, that sort of thing? Absolutely.
So we actually have a 4-point scale for our review system, and it's based on the quality of the food, the level of service, the ambience, and so that sort of populates an overall rating for the place as well. So the more people use our site, and there's one more thing actually, we reward our users for using our site with charity points. So the more you use our site, the more points you collect, and then we work with charity partners who can actually donate that money to a food or water related cause. And I think that's very central to the Islamic faith as well, the whole charity aspect. So you know, the more people use our site, the more not only can we dine, but we can help feed others in the world at the same time.
What charities are you working with?
At the moment we're working with Human Appeal and Penny Appeal, who are two of the biggest charities in the UK, and they have projects all over the world. But we are working with other charity partners as well to bring their causes to our site too.
This is such a lovely idea. I mean, it's you. When you say we, who are you now?
So our team has just grown from 6 to 9 people in this month. So 2 of us actually started. 3 of us were on the same course together in Singapore. So we're kind of part of the core team. We're also joined by somebody who's a great friend of mine and a very experienced Chief Marketing Officer. So she was previously at Unilever, the head of digital innovation there, and she's run big brand consultancy companies that she's then sold. So Helen lives in Singapore, but she's British. She's from Yorkshire, and she occasionally suffers from intolerances as well. So she understood the concept and saw the market opportunity. We have Usman, who's our CTO. He's originally from Lahore, but was working at Microsoft when we started speaking about the idea, and he left his amazing career at Microsoft to come and work on this full time. And we've got 3 other team new members who've just joined us in the UK.
So the plan is to expand more globally, I'm guessing?
Yes. Yeah, so initially we thought we'd get it right in Singapore, get it right in the UK, and then expand one country at a time. But we're now accelerating that plan, so we should be in 8 cities by the end of this year around the world.
And also, obviously, you're going around, individual restaurants. Does that include the big chains, like the McDonald's, the Pizza Expresses, the big global chains, even like the coffee shops, Starbucks, that sort of thing? Are they interested in getting involved in this?
Yes, so actually in Singapore, all of the McDonald's are actually halal, and so are the Pizza Huts and Burger Kings and so on. In the UK, the situation is slightly different. You don't have that many fast food chains that are halal, but you do have Pizza Express that offers a halal chicken option, for example. So we work on it on a country-by-country basis, but our focus is on trying to find those gems that nobody really knows about. So we spend a lot of time curating almost independent restaurants that people don't know are halal.
So you're almost a travel guide and a foodie guide as well as a halal guide.
Yes, I suppose it's useful for tourists and local residents too.
Have you had good feedback from business owners, the people that own the restaurants? How are they finding this, and can it be useful for them?
Absolutely. So what we try to do is connect diners with restaurant owners, and our hope is actually to help solve both sides of, help both sides of the equation. So from a restaurant owner perspective, what we've been able to do is show to them that we are there to be their growth partners. And for example, we had a restaurant owner who opened up in a very popular sort of Asian area that had lots of walking traffic, and he thought he was going to get lots of customers just walking in. But in fact, it wasn't that way, and he's just invested in this brand new restaurant. Obviously, it's a problem for him to get diners through the door. And he asked us to help him out with sort of a digital marketing campaign, which we did with amazing results. We were able to reach 45,000 diners within the space of a week, all local to him, and he started getting lots of customers walking in through the door because of working with us. So that's really amazing as well, that we're able to help people, in their livelihoods that way.
That's a very impressive reach, 45,000 people. I mean, what sort of numbers are we looking at here generally using the site?
So in terms of a sort of a weekly basis, we're probably looking at about 7,000 to 8,000 people a week looking at our site, but our social media presence is far larger. So in the last 2 months, we've reached 250,000 people in the UK alone using our social media pages like Facebook and Instagram.
Which is very important for many, many people. Increasingly, people are using social media, reviews, things like TripAdvisor, everything like that. Things are based and judged, unfortunately, sometimes rather harshly on social media these days. How
Absolutely.
are you harnessing that as a force for good? Because surely it could bring a lot of people in a restaurant owner's direction, couldn't it? A good review can mean anything.
Exactly, and that's an excellent point, Lisa. So that is the crux of the problem that restaurant owners struggle with. I mean, users nowadays are spending 2.5 hours of their day on social media, and restaurant owners often don't have the time or the skill set to be able to manage social media channels or digital marketing outreach. So how do they reach these diners that are out there, and how do they compete in the noise, because there's so many people targeting these people on Facebook as well. And that's why a directory service, whether that's us or TripAdvisor, is really useful, because or even bloggers, that's where people will go to first. It's that word of mouth recommendation is still very important. What we're able to do is digitize that word of mouth recommendation, so it's there for you in an instant. You're not relying on your best friend picking up the phone and telling you where she last ate, because it's all recorded and online.
And this is very useful for restaurant owners, because restaurant owners, like in many professions, are not usually people sitting behind a computer. So they're not necessarily going to be as savvy as the rest of us are about, using Twitter or getting back to people when they've, reviewed you, whether it's a positive review or a negative review.
Sure.
It's really, really important to be able to respond to that. And plenty of studies show that actually that does sort of help consumer confidence and help bring people back. Is that something that you're sort of harnessing as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even things like if they've had a bad experience and they're able to post something on Facebook or TripAdvisor and the restaurant owner goes back to them, there is actually an opportunity for service recovery, right? And people to give you a second go again. Mistakes happen in restaurants every single day, right? there's a constant staff churn that's going on as well that restaurant owners have to deal with. So this provides them a real tool with being able to engage with their customer base and get them to come back.
So do you think, well, thanks Siddika, we'll just go for a break and we'll find out more about the Halal Dining Club when we get back.